Former Safe Streets leader who is facing federal drug charges now has a warrant out for his arrest.
America, we need to talk about a big old scam happening in Baltimore. It is called the Safe Streets program, which has received millions of taxpayer dollars to supposedly reduce violence. Just had another one of its supervisors exposed as a major drug dealer. David Caldwell, who was supposed to be stopping crime, was actually running cocaine with street value in the hundreds of thousands of dollars while collecting a government paycheck. But here's the kicker. This is exactly how these Baltimore programs are designed to work.
I don't know what Safe Streets is doing. They're not helping us in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story perfectly exposes how liberal politicians create these violent intervention programs that are really just money laundering schemes for criminals and politician cronies. Let me tell you about David Caldwell. This man was a site supervisor for the Safe Street program in Baltimore. His job was supposedly to interrupt violence and mentor, get this, mentor young people away from crime. Instead, he was running a drug operation.
Just over 2 years ago,
was the FBI here this morning?
The FBI came knocking at the Bel Air Edison Safe Street site and then supervisors David Caldwell's home. The FBI seized a gun magazine with 9 live rounds and drug packaging material from Caldwell's house.
But here's the crazy part. Nothing came from that federal investigation. This man kept his job, kept collecting taxpayer money, and kept dealing drugs for another 2 years. By February 2024, police caught David Caldwell in alleged drug deals. And we're not talking about some small-time stuff here.
According to court documents, police found a brown paper bag inside Caldwell's suspected vehicle, which was found to contain a black-wrapped brick police believed was cocaine. Court records go on to say the BPD detective knows that high-level narcotics traffickers will package their cocaine in pressed packages in a square brick shape, weighing about 1 kilogram.
A kilogram of cocaine. That is definitely not for personal use unless you're storing it for the winter. This man was running a serious drug operation while being paid by taxpayers to supposedly reduce crime in Baltimore neighborhoods. But here's what gets me about this whole situation. This isn't an isolated incident. It is a pattern. Attorney Jeremy Elridge, who's been following these cases, explains what's actually happening here.
When someone doesn't appear for a felony court date, it's either they didn't know because their lawyer didn't tell them, or more commonly, it's an escape hatch. Not wholly uncommon for somebody to say, I'm just not going to go to court. And then that way they have an opportunity to buy themselves some time.
So Caldwell's supposed to show up for his court date on Monday, but guess what? He just didn't show up. Now there's a warrant out for his arrest. This man is literally running from drug charges while he's supposed to be fighting crime. But here's the real question. How many more David Caldwells are out there? Fox 45 News has been investigating Safe Street for years, and they say the only time the public learns about violent interrupters facing charges is when Fox 45 uncovers it themselves.
City Hall maintains the names of the violence interrupters are not the city's to share, despite the program running on taxpayer dollars.
Think about that. City Hall refuses to tell taxpayers who's working in these programs, even though that the taxpayers are paying for it. But these people are collecting government paychecks to supposedly serve our communities. But of course, it gets worse. Fox 45 obtained courtroom audio of attorneys using Safe Street employment as a quote-unquote get-out-of-jail-free card for their criminal clients.
He also spends a significant amount of time volunteering. He works with Safe Street.
The esteemed minister has known my client for several years and has affirmed that my client participates in Safe Street.
So criminals are literally using Safe Street as a defense strategy in court. Your Honor, my client works for Safe Street, as if somehow that makes you a good person while facing criminal charges. City State's attorney Ivan Bates called this out perfectly. It's like Safe Street has become a get-out-of-jail-free card. And the reason this keeps happening is because there is zero transparency about who these people are.
I don't know what Safe Streets is doing. They're not helping us in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If you're going to have the police there has to be a level of enforcement. Otherwise, why are the police standing there?
Ivan is absolutely right. right, what is Safe Street actually doing? They're not helping reduce crime. They're not cooperating with police. And now we find out their supervisors are major drug dealers. Now let's talk about the real grift behind all this. While Safe Street supervisors are dealing drugs and skipping court dates, Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott decided to have a little summit with his buddy, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. I'm going to call them Brandon Squared, to talk about their quote-unquote success in reducing crime.
Mayor Brandon Johnson's been part of the day in Baltimore, talking crime and what's working in cities like ours. He says Chicago's making progress without the National Guard, and he wants people to see the difference. Homicides down nearly 30%, and he says blocks with violence interruption programs see 40 to 45% fewer shootings.
Okay, so Brandon Mohawk Johnson is bragging about violence interruption programs. But wait, didn't we just learn that a supervisor in Baltimore was in one of these programs, was dealing kilograms of cocaine? How exactly does that reduce violence? And Brandon Squared is claiming homicides are down 30%. But here's what they don't want you to know. It is actually being underreported. When you don't have enough police officers to respond to calls, when you don't arrest people for quote-unquote minor crimes, when you reclassify violent crimes as non-violent crimes, of course your statistics are going to look better.
Taking over 20,000 illegal weapons on the streets of Chicago, where my local police department is working with ATF to do just that. And so what we're demonstrating is that there's an approach towards this community that doesn't involve armed, masked men sticking long guns in the faces of poor people.
Brandon Squared is out here talking about taking weapons off the streets. He's criticizing law enforcement while his own programs are run by criminals. But let's talk about what's really happening in Baltimore. There have been 3 mass overdoses in Penn North since July. And guess what? There is a Safe Street office stationed right in that area.
Wednesday, calls for medics after another mass overdose at Penn North, the 3rd since July.
They don't know what's in these drugs out here. These drugs is really hurting our people out here.
A Safe Streets office is stationed in the area.
So you have a Safe Street office right there, and you're still having mass overdoses. You have police with a large presence, and drugs are still flowing freely. What exactly is Safe Streets doing besides collecting paychecks? Ivan Bates compared Baltimore's program to New York City's Community Violence Interrupters program.
Their program is called Community Violence Interrupters. He says unlike in Baltimore, they don't work under a veil of secrecy and are held accountable by a system of checks and balances.
They have to do clock in and clock out in terms of where they are. And the thing that really gets me here is this. The way they do it in New York is that they work with the police.
They work with police, not against them. They go to all roll calls and can be dispatched to hot spots. America, this is exactly what I've been telling you about these liberal crime programs. They're not designed to reduce crime. They're designed to create jobs for political cronies and give criminals a way to collect government paychecks while they continue their criminal activities. David Caldwell was dealing kilograms of cocaine while being paid to reduce violence. The program has zero transparency, zero accountability, and zero results. Meanwhile, Brandon Scott and Brandon Johnson, aka Brandon Squared, are patting themselves on the back for reducing crime with cooked statistics and underreporting. The real crime here is that taxpayers are funding these scams while communities get more dangerous. We're paying criminals to pretend they're fighting crime while they're actually dealing drugs and skipping court dates. This is why we need real law enforcement, not these feel-good programs that are really just money laundering schemes for the political class. When your violence interrupter is running a drug operation, maybe, just maybe, it's time to admit that your program isn't working. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.